everybody. Hello everybody, welcome. There it is again. Oh my god, I literally just killed a fungus gnat in my finger. Can you see it? Yes. The best feeling. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Becca, if we have never met before, and this is my YouTube channel where I talk about all the houseplant things. And today that includes talking about 4 common plant parent mistakes. I am all warm and dressed in my Icelandic wool sweater. Icelandic wool is incredibly warm and water resistant and expensive, but also I am so glad that I got this sweater. It is so cute. Check me out. So anyway, now that I'm all warm and bundled up, I wanted to talk about this because I think that it's important to raise awareness about these common mistakes that we make and common mistakes that I have made. So I'm saying these mistakes knowing full well that I have done all of these things, and I think that it's just important for plant parents, new and old, to kind of look at our practices and see what we're doing and how we can improve. Alright, so the first most common plant parent mistake is to hover over your plants. I think that it's very easy to become a helicopter plant parent, just looking at every little thing on our plants, wondering what's going wrong, why that is happening. But I think that in the midst of that, we forget that plants are living things and they have their own life, they have their own sequence of events and things that they need to go through, and not to get too philosophical about it, but I think that it's really important that we learn to just take a step back sometimes. I think it's really easy to take a microscope to your plants and analyze every little thing that they do, but it is just best not to do that in my experience. The plant will tell you very clearly if something is wrong, and while it is important to inspect your plants, we don't need to be inspecting them every single day. I have actually noticed that when I go on vacation, it seems like my plants grow like 30 times faster than when I was at home. But really the reason that is because I wasn't analyzing and scanning them every single day. So their growth was actually more noticeable to me because I didn't look at them for, a week or so. So I think that that's just a really nice thing that we can take away. It is important to inspect our plants, and I'm not saying to not do that, but I am saying that if something very small goes wrong with your plant, you don't need to freak out and rush to the first Instagram friend you have and message them and ask all the advice, because I get a lot of questions to my Instagram DMs, like asking me to diagnose people's plants, and the truth is, I don't know what's wrong with your plant because I'm not there and I don't know the conditions of your home, and I try my best to help when I can, but a lot of the time, I can't really do much more than you can. So definitely when you see something going wrong, take a deep breath and just know that it's a plant and it'll be okay. And if it is something wrong with it, you'll figure it out and things will be fine. The next most common plant parent mistake is not being mindful about the advice that you are taking. So it is very easy to get a lot of plant advice on the internet from Google searches, from your friends on YouTube, from your friends on Instagram, all of these things, but it is very important to understand that your home is a unique environment and it is completely different than everyone else's homes. It's crazy because my apartment feels so cold right now, but my neighbor's apartment, literally right here, she's my friend, so obviously I have been in there, but it is like warm in their apartment still, and they don't have the heater on. So in my house, the heater is not on and it is like 55 degrees. In their house, the heater is not on and it's like 70 degrees. So you just never know. It depends on the direction your house faces, the type of air you have, just so many things, your elevation. So many things go into creating the environment that your plants live in, and you have to be mindful of that when you take advice on the internet. I have actually made a Plant 101 video that was pretty basic advice about how to just care for plants, and I hope that no one took that as the only way to care for plants, because the truth is, I live on the northern hemisphere, and people in the southern hemisphere will have completely different window directions in their homes, so their care will look different in different windows. And also another thing to consider is where I live, it's warm most of the year, and when it gets cold, it doesn't actually get that cold in comparison to other places. For us, it feels cold, hence the fact that I'm wearing a wool sweater. Some places in the world don't really have a dormant season. So taking the advice to never fertilize my plants in the winter doesn't really work for me because my plants are still growing through the winter because it's still warm here. It's really important that you take any piece of plant advice you get with a grain of salt. The next common plant parent mistake is buying plants that you're not ready for yet. And I have learned this the hard way. I have definitely purchased plants in the past that I was not ready for many reasons. Maybe I didn't have the proper humidity for them, or I didn't have the right light. I didn't have the interest in watering them as much as they needed to be watered. Whatever it may be, I think that it's really important that we understand our capacity to take care of our plants. So for me, it wasn't until very, very recently that I got into calathea and anthurium. Those plants require just a little bit more attention as compared to my other plants. It's been a learning curve for me to now learn how to take care of new plants, but I wasn't able to do that until I figured out and mastered the care of all my other plants. I think that in this whole plant thing, we are constantly learning and constantly adapting, and so many things are changing, and so it's really important that you are buying plants that you feel like you can confidently take care of. Whether that be you now have a humidifier, or you have more time to water, or you are going to set a schedule for yourself, whatever it may be, I think it's very, very common to purchase a plant just because it looks really beautiful without really thinking about what it needs and if you're ready for it. So before you buy a plant, and I've made one of my first videos actually was titled Before You Buy That Plant, and it is cringy because the lighting is so bad, but what I said in the video is still so true, and that I think is one of my most powerful advice videos, and it just so happens that it was one of my first videos, so it's hidden underneath everything else. So I will link that in the description and the cards if you want to check it out. And the last plant parent mistake that I'm going to talk about today is buying from sketchy vendors. This is something, oh God, I could talk about this for a while because I'm sure that everybody in the plant community has had some sort of negative experience with buying plants online, which is so sad because I would hope that it would be, a really pure space, that the plant community would stay pure, but there are scammers out there and they will find a way to trickle their way into whatever they can. And I will say that I have had a bad experience with a plant seller, and it was someone who I thought I could trust, but it turns out I couldn't, and it just ended really ugly. So definitely before you buy from somebody, make sure that they are a reputable seller, they are on Etsy, or that you are paying through PayPal goods and services. If you have a sale through PayPal that goes wrong and you paid with goods and services, you can definitely find a way to get reimbursed for that purchase or make a claim on that person, whatever it may be, but don't buy from sketchy sellers. Trust me, it's not the best experience in the whole world. I'm sure that you could ask a lot of different plant people about their sketchy experiences, and it's just not pleasant. So before you buy from someone, make sure that you can trust them, and even if you feel like you can trust them, ask more questions because you just never know. I just think that it's important to kind of err on the side of caution because this is your money, and if things go wrong, I would hope that you'd be able to get it back. You would have some sort of plan in place. So definitely make sure that your plant sellers are vetted and that you have checked them out and you have reviews. And if you have a bad experience, leave a bad review. I think especially on Etsy, it's so common to look at the reviews before you even consider buying the plant, at least for me. I know that if I'm buying a product and there are reviews for the seller, I am reading all of them. I am studying them. I'm taking notes because it's really important to dissect those reviews. Even if it's a negative review, you can kind of tell when it was the buyer's fault or if it was the seller's fault. Usually if it is a bad review, the seller will make it right, of course, and then they will say that also below the review. I've seen that a lot, hey, my plant arrived dead, but the seller, I reached out to the seller and they were really cooperative or something like that. And the seller will comment back or something and say, hey, thanks so much for your cooperation. So glad to send you out a new plant. So if something goes wrong, they'll give you a new plant, stuff like that. And I also want to say along that vein, if you do have a bad experience with a seller, I think it's extremely important to reach out to the seller first before you blast them on the internet. I did not blast the person who I had a bad experience with because Not that I think that I am that powerful at all, but I would just hate for me to say something and then no one to buy from him who like follows me or whatever, because I don't know how much of an overlap there is, and I really don't want to take down someone's business because one person had a bad experience. Again, I don't think that I'm so powerful that that would happen. I just think that like if you have a bad experience with someone, they should not be canceled, because like cancel culture exists in like the beauty community and a lot of other communities, and I would really hate for that to exist in the plant community. And I'm sure that you can think of several examples of people who might have been canceled in the plant community. Specifically one is coming to mind, but I don't want to talk about that. But anyway, whatever it may be, if you have a bad experience, definitely share it kindly and talk to the seller first, because if they're not willing to rectify the situation and they're not being kind, well then you kind of can do whatever you feel is right at that point. That would be all for this video. It got kind of intense at the end there. This is meant to be kind of lighthearted, but I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you find yourself making any of these mistakes, please don't worry. I'm not saying any of this to like shame people, because I have done all of these things and I still continue to do a lot of these things. So just know that we're all in this together, and thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you have been enjoying Vlogmas this year. It's been so much fun to film these videos. I'm having a blast. I hope you are too. And yeah, so I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.